Hey everyone, welcome back to this channel of crafting, crochet and knitting. My name is Nikki and welcome to my little yarniverse. So yes, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. We do all sorts of tutorials, vlogs about work in progress, yarn hauls. So if that's the sort of thing that interests you, then stick around, and if you enjoy this content then please make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you know when my videos go live. Typically I do put out a video every week, but I do have an apology to make because last week I did miss one. I was really hoping when I went onto YouTube that I would be able to put a post in the channel just to say sorry there wasn't going to be a video happening, and I found out that YouTube has removed that feature for smaller channels, so that's a bit upsetting because it's been a week and I haven't been able to basically say sorry, it's been busy, I wasn't able to do a video. So I apologise. I did kind of warn that it could have happened. There was a lot of exciting stuff happening, and unfortunately last week it wasn't so exciting anymore and it took a bit of a turn for the worse. So I won't go into details because there's a chance it could still happen the way we want to, and I'll be able to share it and it'll be a nice surprise. But for now, things aren't so great. So I am just going to instead distract from the low tone and try and talk about some work that I have been some progress I've been making with my knitting and crochet. So actually this is going to be quite a crochet heavy video because I realised that I have been doing a lot more knitting recently. I've knitted a few jumpers, I've knitted a pair of socks, I could crochet a shawl, but I think that that's pretty much the only thing I can sort of bring to mind that I've done recently that has been crochet. So I wanted to get back into doing some crochet, and I have picked up a few projects that I had put on the side and tried to ignore for a little bit because you know what I'm like, if the project doesn't go well then it gets put on the naughty corner. So yes, the first thing that really hasn't gone very well is a crochet toy that I started a little while ago. I did hold it up and sort of said, you know, can you guess what it is? So I've done the eyes and I'm happy with the eyes. I have done just some little arms for this character as well. So nothing exciting there. But kind of what's happened is I've actually gone and frogged back a lot of the progress I had. So previously I had a face to put this on and I have frogged that back because I decided that the approach I was taking to it wasn't great. So believe it or not, this blue swatch here is intended to be Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. I would insert a photo, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to put a photo in for copyright, but if you search Lilo and Stitch you'll see who I'm talking about. A little blue monster who is quite cute. The thing with Stitch is that he has this blue patch that goes sort of from his mouth down his neck and his body, and I really didn't want to have to crochet up a separate pouch to sew on because I felt like that would bulge out a little bit and it wouldn't be sort of maybe as nice a finish. But unfortunately I've just realised that the way I've been doing it is going to waste so much yarn and it doesn't have as nice neat edges as I would hope. And the other thing is the shaping. So because I'm crocheting in the round, the starting stitch shifts every time, and so actually lining those stitches up to get a nice smooth transition sort of below the mouth and then into the rest of the body wasn't working at all, unfortunately. So that was an experiment that didn't go well. If you know, you know. It was an experiment that didn't go so well, and instead I'm just going to simplify it and I'm just going to go back to old school techniques of crocheting up separate patches that you sew on later. So hopefully now that I've opted for that, this will be a quicker project to do because it will look really nice with like cute little eyes, ears with their little notches in them. So yeah, I know that that's not really much to show for several weeks of picking this up on and off, but there it is. The bigger thing that I've been working on has been some birds. Now, why birds? I basically, because of that same thing with the Stitch project where I'm kind of trying to play with shape and colour but a bit more in my design work, I thought I'd like to experiment with shape a bit. So I made the conical flask tutorial a little while ago where I spoke a bit about how there are some general ways in crochet that you can make shapes up that can help your amigurumi. And so I wanted to see if I could play with anything else shape-wise, and increasing and decreasing was something that you could look at in a bird, because what basically happened was a friend sent a photo that they'd taken at the zoo where they just had like a load of birds of prey on display, and what I noticed about them when they were sat is that when they're sat, their chest puffs out, and then their body kind of comes more to a triangle, to kind of like a wedge rather than, you know, a cylinder. And I just thought this was some really interesting shaping to try and play with. So I tried. I bit off a bit more than I could chew to begin with because I tried to do a Peregrine Falcon. So again, I had the same issues that I had with Stitch, where the colour was not working out so well for me. So I decided to simplify it. I had some really nice leftover colour changing yarn. So this was left over from a baby cardigan that I did not long back. And I was able to make this really sweet little bird. So if I put it this way, I kind of increased more around this side so it puffed the chest out more than the back. And then when I came to do, it's not as obvious actually what I did here, but when I came to getting this to the point, I actually decreased on the sides rather than decreasing evenly around the bird. And that has made a little bit more of a wedge shape. I think that maybe I should have done the uneven decreases a couple of rounds sooner, so it really pulled in the sort of the front back profile would be in more of a wedge, and then the actual front would be longer. I am not talking in any sensible terms right now. How do you describe a 3D wedge? Basically, yeah, like, so the head is very spherical. The chest is then increased more on this side so that it puffs out, but then you go back to being quite spherical. Not spherical, cylindrical. So even decreasing. So if you have 36 stitches, then you would do 4 single crochets, and then you would crochet 2 together, and then you do that 6 times, and that would then evenly distribute those decreases around the shape, and you get a nice cylinder. But by the time I got to this tail, like I said, I didn't want a cylinder, I wanted to kind of point it more. And so we wanted the front and the back to be longer than the sides. And you can kind of see that they're a bit longer, but the shaping could have been done a bit earlier to really bring it in more. But overall, I'm quite happy with this design, and it gave me the confidence to go back to the Peregrine Falcon. Now, I haven't got nearly as far with this, but I have the pattern for the shaping that I want, which means I could play with the colour more. So, I'll get that out. This is how far I've gotten. So what I've done here is the thing that was tripping me up was I was trying to do like little white patches in the neck. I can put a picture of Peregrine Falcon up so I can show you what I was basically trying to emulate, and that was really difficult, and in the round that wasn't really working because I had the same problem where the round was shifting each time and you couldn't get it evenly distributed. So what I did was I just decided I was going to just do the head in one colour, and I would introduce the new colour as I went to do the puffed out chest. So that's what I did. It was a bit easier to increase and decrease just having 2 colours in the round. And what I realised is that once I'd gotten a little bit of the chest done, I could actually deliberately pass my yarn, rather than it being behind the stitches all the time, I could pass it around the front sometimes and get the speckles in, so it wouldn't waste the yarn. I wouldn't have to go back later and then sew in a separate strand to make the detail. I could actually work the detail in as I went. So that was something that I've been playing with sort of carrying my yarn and how I can integrate the colour into the work. So I'm not a bird person, but I'm quite surprised at how looking at the shape of that animal has really made me think about how I would make those shapes in crochet. And it's been a really interesting experiment. And it's also been a bit of an excuse to get these adorable safety eyes. Just look at that. I got a set that had like red, orange, gold, yellow, brown, blue, green, purple, magenta, loads of colours. Unfortunately, the backs didn't fit and they were not safe at all. Like I could pull this safety eye off without even trying, which is really bad because, like, I mean, I don't have kids, so they're not going to get hold of this, but just if someone else has bought that product and they've pulled their safety eye off the back, that's not a safe product for a child. I usually sew eyes for children, as you guys have seen on this channel before, because I'm even paranoid about safety eyes that do work just failing. But the point of a safety eye is that once you put the back on, you cannot take the back off. So you need to make sure that it's in the place that you want it to be before you commit to sticking the back on. And all the safety eyes I've used previously, I think, have been trimmets, and they've all worked fine. And like I think you'd rip the yarn before you took the safety eye off the back. So even though that's the standard that I have been working with, I still never gave that to a child. Like a really young child, like a 2-year-old or younger, you know, one that uses their teeth a lot. These, I could just pluck it off. And I just thought, if you had a child who was really chewing at that eye and it popped surprisingly off and then straight down their throat, it's unbearable to think of. And so just as a warning to people who are using eyes in amigurumi, just give it a tug, like before you seal off your work, just give it a tug to see whether it's going to pop off or not. Or try and take the back off your work before you stuff and sew and everything, because you don't want to give that gift and discover that it wasn't safe. So I had some of the safety eyes that had a different range of sizes for their backs, and so I essentially kind of like went a size up in those and tried fitting those onto the back, and most of those stayed on perfectly fine. And there was like one that popped off, and so I just swapped it out for another size so that I could just be sure, because yeah, that's terrifying to me. And I think as well, just like, I think the importance of first aid shouldn't be underestimated. And if you have children, I know that you won't want to think about this happening, but consider learning some basic first aid. There was a campaign a little while ago about how to save choking infants and children, and how to do CPR on infants and children. And like I say, I know you don't want to think about it happening, but like, just look that up. Just be aware. If you work with children or if you have children, you know, you never know. It might not be your child, it might be their friend, but it's better to know than not. Yeah, I'm babbling. You can tell that this really freaked me out, and so yeah, on a happier note, they are safe now and they are adorable. So I will finish my rant. But I'm really happy with that. So that's what I've been working on basically. I've been trying to work on some toys with different shapes. I've mentioned the Snuggle and Play crochet book before on this channel, and I do love that book, but the thing about that is that all of the amigurumis for the animals are based off the same shape palette. So things like ears change, and things like there's like a hoof and an arm version that are different, but that's about it. It's very adorable because the collection of animals look very similar, and you know, and they look like they belong with each other, and it's very sweet. But it didn't really test my own ability as a designer to be playing around with shape, and I think that's something I want to do with my crochet. I think I'm at a point now where I actually want to play with shape a bit more and to start designing just little things. I made a Christmas pudding decoration once, which was part crochet, part knitting. And yeah, so now I just want to see about these little toys, like taking inspiration from other designs and trying to fit the shapes that are created into other animals, like these little birds. So this video actually ended up being longer than I thought it was going to be, considering I only had a few things to show you. But I hope that you understand that things have been a bit off around here lately, and I'm thinking I probably am going to have a bit more time to do crochet and knitting over the next few weeks, so hopefully content should go back to being as normal as it was before. I'm thinking of doing another tutorial, so that will be another video, but tutorials do take a little bit longer to make, so I did need to make sure that I had the time to do it, but I think I have that time, so I'm looking forward to it. I hope you're looking forward to it too. And if you have any comments, then please let me know in the description down below just what you're making, because I always like to hear what you guys are making. If you've ever attempted to make your own crochet shaped animals before, what have you made? How have you done it? And I will see you in another video. Bye!